and welcome to another episode of Dafuq Did I Just Watch? This week we'll be recapping and reviewing the Flash movie. I don't know. I don't really feel like reviewing. What's happening? What's happening? Who are you?
I'm too far back. Now listen, stop freaking out. Stop. Listen,
How is it possible?
It's you. I'm you from an alternate timeline. I've traced back the events of our future to this moment. If you don't review The Flash, our timeline spirals out of control.
Well, what happens in the future?
Well, how about this? Aliens come down to visit.
Aliens? Actually sounds kind of cool.
But they want to go on the biggest news platform they can find, so they go on the Joe Rogan experience.
Joe Rogan?
Yes, dude. Yes, it's cool for a second, but you know Joe, it only takes like 15 minutes and then he starts talking about mushrooms.
That makes sense.
DMT. So eventually they're getting all messed up on these psychedelics. They say that they're going on an intergalactic beer run and then they vanish for like the last 6 months. Oh, that's not that bad. Well, how about this? Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, gets elected in the 2024 election.
Joe Exotic. I mean, that's actually not that bad. It actually sounds like progressive as hell, actually.
Oh no, it's progressive as hell. I was completely on board for like a week, and then he sends his elite strike force, Tiger Team 6, to attack all the Chick-fil-A's in America.
Tiger Team 6? What, is that like Navy SEALs?
No, it's not military dudes at all. It's just a bunch of tigers that they strap night vision goggles onto. Yeah, no, you have to review. You must review. I'm running out of time. Please, you must review. The fate of the future depends on it.
Well, if the entire multiverse is at stake, then I guess I have no choice but to review DC's The Flash. Now, if you haven't seen The Flash and would still like to, make sure you pause now and return later, as there may be several spoilers up ahead. That's right, this is your official spoiler alert! The Flash is the latest addition to the DC cinematic universe, and it also marks one of the final chapters before the entire DC universe is reset by the recent James Gunn takeover. The film is directed by Andy Muschietti, who's taking a big step outside of the horror genre, having previously directed such films as Mama and parts 1 and 2 of the most recent interpretation of It. The Flash sees the return of several familiar faces from our previous Justice League films, like Ezra Miller playing our title character, The Flash, aka Barry Allen. Ben Affleck also reprising his role for a record-setting 4th appearance as the Dark Knight. Gal Gadot, of course, appearing briefly as Wonder Woman, and even Jeremy Irons gets to jump in on the fun as Alfred. We also see the return of the great Michael Shannon reprising his role as General Zod from way back in the Man of Steel days. Now, there is one noticeable recast in the film, and that's of Barry Allen's father, who was originally played by Billy Crudup in the Justice League films. You might recognize him as Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen. He is replaced by Ron Livingston, who's probably most known for Office Space. I was a bit disappointed to hear about the recasting with Ron Livingston, although I think Ron Livingston is great, although he has a lifetime pass from Office Space. I also really like Billy Crudup, and I thought he did phenomenal in the previous Justice League film. Although his screen time is minimal, he gives an amazing performance that is truly memorable. Like, one of the more memorable parts of that insane movie is his performance. And it's no secret that The Flash marks the return of the great Michael Keaton reprising his role as the Batman. And let's talk a bit about the story of The Flash, which is heavily influenced by the 2011 comic Flashpoint. And while the film does follow the Flashpoint story very closely, it takes it a step further by also incorporating the multiverse. And so you get like a pretty fun mix of not only time travel and going back to the past and getting to see your younger self, but then you also get the fun mix of like the multiverse too. So we get different Batman and different Supermen and fun alternatives to the characters that we're so familiar with. Let's talk about some of the performances throughout the film, starting with our main character, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, aka Ezra Miller. Say what you want about Ezra Miller, say what you want about what he does outside of the movies, say what you want about the insanity that is Ezra Miller's personal life, but if we focus on this little box that is The Flash, he's doing a great job. He's also pulling double duty in this film because he's not only playing his modern Flash that we know, but he's also playing alternate Flash who's younger and doesn't have the trauma of losing both his parents. So although he is playing the same person, it's two drastically different versions of this same person. It's fantastic watching the dual performances. He does an amazing job at being like silly, goofy, funny Barry Allen, but then also heavy, dramatic. Anytime it's him and his mom, those scenes are oozing with emotion, and it is like heavy duty, and Ezra Miller is killing it in this role. And although for the most part the film stars Ezra Miller and Ezra Miller, we could probably point towards Michael Keaton as our main other co-star. And it's essentially nostalgia times 9,000 seeing Michael Keaton don the cape and cowl once again. It's great seeing the old Wayne Manor. It's amazing seeing the old Bat Cave, the old Bat Jet, the old Bat Suit. It's all great, and Michael Keaton can basically do no wrong in this film. There was one aspect that I found to be a bit disappointing, and that's the introduction of Sasha Calle, who plays Supergirl, and is basically used as like a sacrificial tool to just motivate Ezra Miller. It's just disappointing that like we get this cool introduction of Supergirl, but she's basically like useless. Kiersey Clemons also falls into that category of like disappointment because like I was actually excited to finally get an interpretation of Iris West. We've only ever seen Iris West for like 1 second in the previous Justice League films, so I was like, okay, we finally get some Iris West action. Boy, was I wrong, because she's barely in the film at all, and the little bit that she is in the film, she's like not even being a friend. Like she's like just being like, I don't know, kind of weird and like just like kind of like taking advantage to kind of like feed her stupid like news story. Like it never comes off as like friendly, it never comes off as like romantic. It just is always like just awkward and like weird and just feels like forced and almost like shoehorned. And we have to mention Maribel Verdú because she's basically the beating heart of this movie. She is the emotional center point of this film. She is amazing as Barry Allen's mother, and it is just raw emotion with her, and her scenes between her and Ezra Miller are just phenomenal. Now let's talk a little bit about the visual effects throughout the film. There is a lot going on. There is a lot of CGI, which is understandable. Like when you think about a Flash movie, when you consider that there's going to be like a lot of like this action, like a lot of slow motion saving people's lives. Yeah, there's going to be CGI. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of like computer generated effects. But that doesn't excuse how terrible this movie looks, dude. It's crazy. On the one hand, we have the Parent Trap effect, right? We got our two Lindsay Lohans, Ezra Miller, who are on screen together. Like 80% of the movie, they are on screen together, and it looks good. It never has that weird double effect or where it's like, you know, like when they're talking to each other, it's like you can tell that like he's talking to somebody else. It looks good throughout most of the film. Whenever it's like Ezra on Ezra, it looks pretty good. What else looks good? Anytime he's like running in slow motion, looks pretty cool. All the flash effects look pretty cool, like when he and like the lightning shoots out. Those are cool. But you know what looks terrible is when there's CGI in all these people, dude. Like, okay, I understand. There's a scene at the beginning where there's like 10 fallen babies through the sky and he's got to save them. I get it. You're not going to use a real baby, so I give you a pass on the CGI baby. Although it looks terrible, I get it. I'm going to ignore because I understand. The scenes that don't work is like anytime he does like his time travel thing, he has to like look through his memories, so you see everybody. CGI Michael Shannon, CGI Ron Livingston, CGI Michael Keaton, and they all looked horrible, dude. They looked like next level terrible, dude. I'm talking The Mummy Returns, The Scorpion King, dude. I'm talking like, I was like, dude, is it 2001? Why does everything look horrible, dude? All the CGI people look so bad. Like, it physically took me out of the viewing experience just because I was so like caught off guard by how terrible everyone looks in CGI form. And it's also like, you have the actors there. Why are you recreating this terrible Scorpion King version of everybody? And I'm talking everybody, dude. There's a moment later where like the multiverses are colliding. So you get like, Christopher Reeves pops up, and it's like, I was excited to see him. I knew there was no way he wasn't going to be in the movie, but when I tell you that Christopher Reeves looked horrible, dude. It's like, dude, you have the archival footage of Christopher Reeves. Why are you massacring Christopher Reeves like this, dude? All that he has done for you, and this is what you do to him? This is what you did to my boy. Look what you did to him. So let's hit The Flash with our overall rating. Overall, most of the performances are good. Ezra Miller really shines in his lead role, playing the dual roles and playing them both phenomenally well. He does a really great job throughout the film. It is great seeing Michael Keaton reprising his role as the Batman. He does an amazing job in the film. And the story itself is pretty fun. It is a pretty fun story. You get the fun mix of not only traveling through time and like going to the past, but then you also get the fun mix of the multiverse too. So it's like, it's a fun combo. It's like pretty entertaining. But overall, the general tone of the film is like relatively light. It's relatively pretty fun. The Ezra on Ezra interactions are pretty entertaining. And although some of the CGI is bad, although some of the CGI is borderline like offensive to my eyes and also offensive to like the actors that you're modeling off of, there is also other CGI that's like very well done. Anytime he's like using the Speed Force, it like looks great. It looks very cool. I love the lightning effects. So overall, we're gonna hit The Flash with a C+. That's right, coming in a little bit above average, although it's not the worst DC film, and as a matter of fact, it's probably leaning towards one of the better DC films. It is filled with really good performances. It is filled with a ton of nostalgia that you cannot help but get yourself wrapped up in. But there is like an overall feeling of like being held back. There is an overall feeling of like just wastefulness of like, again, Supergirl, Sasha Calle, like I feel like she was wasted on this film. Even like Michael Shannon, who they brought back, he's basically like not really used for much other than just footage of stabbing Supergirl over and over. Like he doesn't really do a lot in this movie. If you felt differently about The Flash, make sure you comment down below, and if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button because it's much appreciated. I am your host as always, Kyle McLemore, and we'll see you next time at the movies.